Hi, I'm Andy, and this is my lesson on using polymorphism in methods and collections in Java. In this lesson, I'll discuss how to use polymorphism in methods and how to use polymorphism to create arrays and array lists that can hold a mixture of different objects. Let's get started. Here's a summary of the class hierarchy for our online store program. Note that we have three subclasses that inherit, either directly or through their parent, from the store item class. Let's first import the arraylist class into our program since we'll be using it later on. In this lesson, we'll improve our online store program by allowing the user to buy as many of our products as they wish. To do that, let's first make an array to hold the products offered by our store. Although our store offers a mixture of products, they are all types of store items. Therefore, we'll declare this to be a store item array. We're using an array here instead of an array list because the size of this collection will not change as the program runs. This array is our first new example of polymorphism in our program. By declaring this to be an array of store items, it can contain objects that are instances of the store item class or any of its subclasses. Now let's incorporate a shopping cart into our program. The shopping cart will hold all the items that the user has decided to purchase. Since this collection can grow in size, we need to use an array list here. And since this cart will hold all types of store items, just like the store array, we need to use polymorphism here and declare it to be an array list of store item objects. Now let's make a method called chooseItem, which will ask the user which item they want and will return a reference to that selected item. Depending on what the user chooses to buy, this method could return a regular store item object, but it could also return a book object, an audiobook object, or a grocery store item object. So we'll use polymorphism again here and declare the return type to be store item, since all those classes mentioned are subclasses of store item. And this method needs to be passed an array of store items. We'll call that array items. This method will first present a menu to the user, showing the store items for sale. Each item will be preceded by a number, so we need to create an integer variable called num and initialize it to 1. Then we'll use a for each loop here to show each item's name and price. Again, the items array can contain any type of store item, so the data type for our for loop variable needs to be store item. Now we'll print num, followed by a parentheses, followed by the name and price of the item. Then we need to increment num by 1. After the for loop finishes, we'll get the user's input and convert it to an integer. Then we'll return the item that's at the index associated with that choice. The array index is one less than the number entered by the user. For simplicity, we'll assume the user always enters a valid choice. Now we need a while loop to repeatedly cause this chooseItem method. We'll use a while true loop to do that. First, we'll ask the user if they want to keep shopping. If they answer no, we'll break out of the loop. Otherwise, we'll call choosEitem and store their selection in a reference called purchased_item. Remember, purchased_item is a polymorphic variable here. Depending on what the user chooses, it may refer to a book, an audiobook, a grocery store item, or a regular store item. Then we'll add the purchased item to our shopping cart. After the while loop ends, we need to tell the user the total cost of all their items. We'll do that by first creating a variable called total cost. Then we'll use a for each loop to go through the entire shopping cart and add up the cost of all the items. Remember, each time through the loop, this line of code will call the correct getCost method depending on the actual object currently referenced by item. Then we'll tell the user the total cost. And that's it. Let's go ahead and test it out. Good, so it looks like our program is working correctly. Before ending this lesson, I want you to pause and appreciate how useful polymorphism is in this program. I honestly have no idea how we would have written this program without using polymorphism. Imagine if we couldn't refer to books and audiobooks and grocery store items generically as store items, but instead had to always use their actual class type. Our program would have undoubtedly been much longer and much more complicated. Also notice how easy it is to add new products to our store. Because of our use of polymorphism, we would be able to treat those new items generically as store items, just like we do with all the other items. That means we would just need to add them to this array here, and that's it. We wouldn't have to change our for loops or methods at all. That's the power of polymorphism. It makes code that is shorter, less complicated, and easier to modify and extend in the future. And that wraps up this lesson on using polymorphism in methods and collections in Java. I'm Andy. Thanks for watching and coding with me today.